Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday morning. I'm going to start your day off with a piece of good news, at least those of you guys that live around Chicago. Lori Lightfoot was told to hit the bricks yesterday. She got her ass handed to her in the election. I think it was 87% of the, 83 or 87% of the city said, we don't want you back, okay? A overwhelming referendum on her absolute failure. So Beetlejuice is dead. It's not all good news because, of course, the two people running for in the runoff are both Democrats. You've got Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson. So whether or not they can improve on Lori Lightfoot, which that shouldn't be difficult, is not really the question. The problem is it will be politics as usual in Chicago, and so that once great city will still continue to be the hellhole that it is. Okay. So for those of you in Chicago, at least be happy that you can get rid of that witch from your TV stations when you're watching the news. Absolute failure would be an accomplishment for her. All right, so now I want to get into something here real quick. Starting yesterday, and I want you to watch this clip first.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war, and they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying, God forbid, because it's a horrible thing.
Now, the way that was edited makes it sound like Zelensky's calling for U.S. troops to be sent now. That's not the way it is, okay? You had to listen to the whole clip. And this is what I say constantly. People have a tendency, even me, okay, to take this much of the clip and take it completely out of context, all right? No, Zelensky is not calling for U.S. troops on the ground right now. What he said was, previous to that part, is if Ukraine loses, then American troops will be fighting Russian troops. That's his speculation, because he's under some delusion that once Russia's done taking over Ukraine, Russia's going to start moving into the rest of Eastern Europe and then move into Western Europe and whatsoever. Not that I couldn't be wrong, okay, because again, I will fully admit I thought Russia would never go into Ukraine. Russia would be completely foolish to go into Western, or the rest of Eastern Europe, Western Europe, whatever you want to talk about, because then it's a declaration of war against NATO, all right? So, when you're seeing all these comments today, Zelensky's calling for U.S. troops, understand the full context, all right? Not saying it can't happen. I told you before, I still think this is Joe's Vietnam, and we're going to have troops in Ukraine sooner or later. But no, Zelensky did not call for troops now to be on the ground in Ukraine. Just saying. Now, this is what I want to get into. Yesterday, and I talked about this briefly on the live stream last night. Yesterday, you had a gentleman who was arrested in Cyprus, who the House Republicans want to come to testify in front of Congress. Over what? Well, he was arrested for being potentially, he's charged with being an international arms dealer, dealing arms primarily to China, also to Iran, okay? Here's the catch. He also, the reason Congress wants to talk to him is because he supposedly has a boatload of evidence implicating Hunter and Joe in these business dealings with China and Iran. If it comes out that Hunter was part and parcel to dealing arms on the international market. And the big guy is getting 10%. Think about what we do to arms dealers when we catch them. This is the President of the United States. Now, I want you to go back and think about this for a second. We left, what, $80 billion worth of equipment in Afghanistan? Something like that? No, leave. Don't worry about the equipment. Just leave. How much of that was happening? Speculating here. Okay. Why is this a concern? You got to put the puzzle pieces together. The Pentagon has also come out this week and said that they are struggling to track where the U.S. weapons are that we have sent to Ukraine. Okay, tens of billions of dollars of it. Okay, this came up in Congress the other day, that we're sending weapons to Ukraine that we already know are winding up on the international market. Okay, that Ukraine's not using them for the war, that they're selling them. The arms dealers in Ukraine are selling them to terrorist organizations, to gangs, to the Chinese, potentially even to the Russians, because the Russians have already come out and the Chinese have already come out and said they've learned a lot by reverse engineering the captured weapon systems that they've gotten from Ukraine. Now answer me this. What weapon systems have we sent Ukraine that can be captured? Missiles don't put themselves back together after blowing up. You're not going to go and figure out after an airplane blew up getting hit by a missile how the missile worked. So somehow these weapons are getting into the hands of our enemies that we are spending our tax dollars giving to Ukraine. And ultimately, who is responsible for that? Oh, that would be the big guy who gets 10%, remember? Who has been questioned on, ironically, his illegal business dealings through his son with Ukraine and China. Now we're starting to see the froth on Joe's latte here. What's going on? Why are we still sending weapons for Zelensky to sell them or to give them to his oligarchs or even to give them to his generals who are turning around and not using them in a war, but using them to pad their pockets? You know, you look at the lifespan of Ukrainian soldiers on the front right now. It's 4 hours. Okay? Just saying, that's how long a new recruit is expected to live on the front. 4 hours. Okay? That's how bloody this is. It's how much of a mess it is. You know, this isn't Hamburger Hill, okay? This is just insane meat grinder. That's it. Send your kids off to die. Bye, Mom. I'll be dead in 4 hours is basically what's going on. And Joe is part and parcel in this. I mean, a lot of people in Washington are. We are padding the pockets of Zelensky and his inner circle. We are giving our technology to our enemies through Zelensky. And Joe is getting rich off of this. Account somewhere in the Caymans or Switzerland or whatever. Who knows where it is. It sure as hell ain't being reported on his tax forms. Let's put it this way. He's as much of a grifter as Zelensky is. And the proof is starting to come out that We're going to send another X amount of billion dollars to Ukraine, which you hear every week. And the Pentagon says they can't find the money or can't find the weapons that we're sending. But Joe's like, so let's send more. Start putting the pieces together. You know, you look at the Pentagon saying it's not going to happen, us sending more money, a guy who's arrested who's got all this evidence against Hunter, which indirectly is also against Joe. You've got Zelensky pumping up the volume here saying, American kids are gonna die, yada, yada, yada. Why? Because that's how he wants to, if Ukraine loses, you know, American kids are gonna die. And what he's trying to do there is get the American people to say, we need to send more weapons. You know, we don't want our kids to go, let's send more weapons. So they can sell it on the open market, so they can sell it to the Russians, so they can sell it to the Chinese. Don't think for one freaking second Zelensky gives a damn about Ukraine. Ukraine is his cash cow right now. That's it. He could care less about these tens of thousands of kids that are dying. All he cares about is getting rich. And that's one thing he and Joe have in common. Pinball out.